Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain an American horror movie from 2011 titled Vile. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. The film opens with a man on an operating table, with his shirt removed, then a surgeon enters, cruelly cutting into his chest open and pouring salt into the wound, causing the man to scream. The scene then shifts to four friends, Taylor, Tony, Kai, and Nick, on vacation. Taylor and Nick are a couple, as well as Tony and Kai. While preparing to leave the campground, Kai discreetly gives Taylor a pill with instructions to keep it. During their journey home, they stop at a gas station where they encounter a mysterious stranger named Diane. She requests a ride to her stranded truck. Though Nick agrees, Taylor is wary, cautioning against helping a stranger in the middle of the night. On their way, Taylor turns on the radio to lighten the mood, and as the ride continues, they reach Diane's car and drop her off. Grateful, Diane offers to fetch gas samples for the girls. However, upon her return wearing a gas mask, she releases sleeping gas, rendering everyone unconscious, and the screen fades to black. The friends woke up to find themselves trapped in a house with another group of people. Suddenly, one of them used pliers to rip off Kai's nail, sparking a fierce reaction from Tony, leading to a chaotic fight between the two groups. After a brief scuffle, Nick and Tony calmed down, realizing they were all captured, and the doors were locked. After that, a guy named Sam escorted them to a room where they watched a video projected by a woman. She explained that everyone had a gadget inserted into their necks and had 22 hours to escape. To do so, they needed to inflict harm on each other using the weapons provided. Each bit of suffering would fill up a bar, and once full, they could remove the gadgets and escape. Failure would result in the gadget injecting poison and killing them, and after wishing them luck, the screen went blank. As the group tried to comprehend their situation, a man named Julian, in a state of panic, shouted at their abductors through the camera, pleading to be released. Suddenly, he broke down and attempted to remove his gadget, but in the process, he died, leaving the rest of the group in shock. Faced with no other option, the group reluctantly decides to go along with the twisted plan, and they start with Greg, a reporter desperate to reunite with his son. Tying him to a chair, they subject him to a brutal beating before moving on to more severe torture, including breaking his fingernails. Tara, particularly aggressive, suspects Greg is hiding something and viciously breaks his leg on the table, causing him to pass out from the overwhelming pain. Realizing they can't risk causing severe harm to each other, the group agrees to a systematic approach, limiting the torture inflicted on each person to no more than 6% of the meter. Afterward, Kai and a lady named Lisa head to the kitchen, where Lisa hands Kai a piece of plate and she writes numbers with her bloody finger. These numbers indicate the order in which each person will be tortured, forcing everyone to choose a number and accept their fate. Gathered in a room, they start picking up the numbered plates one by one. Unfortunately, Sam is the first to go, and in the torture room, the group discovers numerous mysterious wounds on his body. He was tortured by the group, experiencing burns on his stomach with an iron and having some fingernails ripped out, and afterward, he goes to a room to rest. The second person to be tortured is Nick, and in an attempt to make things easier for him, Taylor secretly gives Nick some oxy pills, but this will slows down the process. Then Nick undergoes torture in a similar manner to Sam, but this time, a hot iron is not used. While Nick is unconscious, the group considers leaving Greg behind, believing they'll need their strength to escape, and everyone agrees except for Tony, while Taylor agrees for both herself and Nick. Lisa, next on the list, pleaded with the group, expressing her reluctance to be tortured. She ran away and hid herself in another room, but Sam and Tara dragged her out, subjecting her to torture. Meanwhile, in a separate room, Nick regained consciousness and confided in Taylor that he would never have agreed to leaving Greg behind, and he couldn't comprehend Taylor's decision. Although the movie Vile is fictional, it draws parallels to real-life events, such as the harrowing accounts from survivors of Syria's civil war. These individuals, sharing their experiences through a Zoom call, revealed gruesome details of life inside the notorious Syrian prisons. Their narratives include stories of widespread abuse, amputations, rape, the use of electric-powered drills on prisoners, and mass graves for torture victims. In a separate incident from 2014, a Mexican woman faced brutality when police forcibly entered her residence at 6 a.m. on May 4. People were piled on the floor, and the police made her walk on top of them. As she reached the bus's apparent end, they pushed her down, resumed beating her, attempted suffocation, and subjected her to rape. Taylor apologized for the pills, explaining she only intended to help him, and disclosed that she is pregnant. Tara overheard this and informed the group, insisting that Taylor should still be tortured even though she is pregnant. However, Nick volunteered to take Taylor's place. Later, Nick decides to give the remaining pills to Greg to alleviate his pain, but Tara tries to stop him from doing so because she believes Greg is a bad guy. However, Tony, frustrated, knocks her out, and Nick provides Greg with the remaining medication. Later, Tony, Taylor, and Kai attempt to split the remaining 6% equally by immersing their hands in boiling water. However, as they proceed, Kai backs out, leaving Tony and Taylor to endure the boiling water. Meanwhile, Tara regains consciousness, grabs a kitchen knife, and tries to attack Tony for punching her earlier. Tony is stabbed in the shoulder, and as he falls, boiling water spills onto his body. Again, Tara attempts to stab him but is knocked out by Nick. When Tara wakes up on the torture table, she urgently asks about the meter's percentage, and Tony informs her that her actions raised it to 48%. Nervously, Tara urges them to finish quickly, but Tony reveals they've decided to exceed the usual 6% this time. Tara protests, stating the group had voted on 6%, and she tearfully begs to be released. Unbeknownst to her, the group took another vote while she was unconscious and decided on the new plan. As she tries to hold them back, Tara accidentally cuts Kai fatally with a knife. Tyler notices this and informs the group. Tony, distressed and enraged, attempts to kill Tara, but Nick convinces him to spare her. Tony agrees but insists on having his way with her, and the rest of the group agrees. Tony inflicts severe damage on Tara, including damaging her larynx with a wrench, grating some of her skin, and cutting her arms open with a knife, and when Tara finally loses consciousness, the meter reaches 80%. With little time remaining, the last 5 individuals agree to simultaneously break their collarbones. Tony is tasked with breaking everyone's collarbones, but he can't bring himself to break Taylor's. Instead, Nick breaks Tony's collarbone, reaching the meter's 100%. A new message from the woman congratulates them and instructs them to place vials in their gadgets to escape. Sam goes first, followed by Tara, then Tony, who carries Kai's corpse. When it's Tyler's turn, she insists Nick go first, explaining she wants to fetch Greg and can't leave him behind. As Nick enters the next room, he discovers the rest of the group dead. Tony is holding Sam by the neck, but Sam slashes his arm and stabs him in the stomach before fleeing. Approaching the dying Tony, he reveals that Sam orchestrated the scenario and must be stopped at all costs. In the adjacent room, Taylor is seen dragging the injured Greg towards the next area, but she becomes too tired due to her injuries and had to stop. Greg, still influenced by oxy pills, confesses to Taylor that he was aware of a cult believing in causing pain and agony, though he never thought the rumors were true. In the following scene, Nick pursues Sam back into the room seen at the beginning, and Sam somehow removes his gadget and threatens Nick with a knife if he comes closer. He then proceeds to kill Greg with a signal sent from a computer and locks Taylor up again, reducing the bar to 88%. In a desperate bid to escape, Taylor decides to inflict burns on her back with a countertop grill, and further hurts her already burned hand, and miraculously, she manages to bring the meter back up to 100%. Amused, Sam admits to having endured life's injuries and survived, leading him to believe everyone deserves pain to be innocent. He activates a device containing poison on the back of Nick and Taylor's necks, causing them severe pains. Approaching the poisoned Nick, Sam reveals he's played the game with 5 groups but is genuinely impressed by theirs. Despite the poison, Nick manages to kill Sam with a screwdriver and takes meds in the room to counteract the poison. Using another device, he removes the one from his neck. Hurrying back to the room, Nick glimpses Taylor through a monitor on the screen but can't reach her in time as she succumbs to the poison. Heartbroken, Nick uses bolt cutters to free himself from the building and escape. In the movie, Tara initially appeared friendly, taking charge in the challenging situation of being trapped in a house that seemingly required experiencing pain to escape. However, as the plot unfolded, it became evident that Tara was a psychopath who strongly believed in the survival of the fittest mentality. Her true nature emerged as she used any means at her disposal to gain an advantage over others in the group. Sometime later, Nick, now healed from his injuries, sits in a restaurant, enjoying coffee. While waiting for his meal, he notices Diane through the window and decides to follow her. In the final scene, a family drops Diane off, and she insists on getting them a gas sample in gratitude, but the man declines and leaves. Frustrated, Diane returns to her car, only to encounter Nick. He slams her head against her car, rendering her unconscious. Nick places Diane in the back seat, turns on "Lethal Injection" on the radio, and remarks on Diane's earlier comment, "I love this song." Okay guys, that's all the recap about Vile from 2011. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.